Is the Jamal Adams trade actually the worst in NFL history? Let's talk about it when I come back. All right, Jets fans, this is GreenBean back with another video. It's an interesting day. Before I get into all the stuff that I want to talk about, I want to just remind you of the contest we're having right here on GreenBeanjetsfan's YouTube channel. All you have to do is sub here, which is subscribe. Go over to my other channel, Full-Time Coaster Tour, and hit the subscribe button there, and you are in. You can win a t-shirt of your choice from the GreenBeanjetsfan.com merch store, and a grand prize winner will also get that t-shirt, but will also get the Manscaped Ultra Smooth package and some stickers. What do you think of that? So again, go ahead and get into the contest by subscribing here. I also want to remind you that you can support me on Patreon, and the links are right in the top of the description of this video. So, a report was just released from NFL.com that the Jamal Adams trade is the worst trade in NFL history. Now, when I saw that, I couldn't help but I internalized it as they were talking about our side being the worst. How dare they? I got right into it. I don't like to read many articles these days by the big media sources because they're always baloney from my perspective. I like Matt O'Leary and Ryan and those guys. That's who I like to watch. So I read this report, and they were talking about it being the worst for Seattle. Can you believe it? Now, we as Jets fans have been talking about this for a while. We are definitely in favor of the results of this trade, but when they look at it a little bit more detailed from the outside, they're not paying attention to it like we are on a daily basis. We're watching every game, looking for Jamal to get burned and all that sort of stuff, but not everybody's doing that. So when they turned their gaze to this situation and how it looks a year and a half later, they came up with the conclusion that it was the worst trade in NFL history, which is crazy. And we'll get into some others to see if we agree. But let's just look at the trade itself. As many of us know, but we'll recap, the Jets sent Jamal Adams and a 4th-round pick to the Seattle Seahawks for safety Bradley McDougald, 2 first-round picks, and a 3rd-round pick. The first-round pick was pick number 23 in the 2021 draft. We packaged that pick and the Seattle 3rd-round pick, and in addition to our 3rd-round pick, to the Vikings. We sent it to the Vikings for their number 14 pick and a 4th-round pick. So we chose none other than Elijah Vera-Tucker with that pick, and we still have a 1st-round pick remaining. So that's what we've been able to do. Anybody questioning whether or not Elijah Vera-Tucker looks like the goods, they haven't been watching the Jets this year. Elijah Vera-Tucker is a stud. Now, we don't know what his career is gonna end up looking like, but the early returns are very, very good, and his teammates seem to love him as well, which is also a positive. Now, on the Seattle side, they were getting a 2-time All-Pro safety for a unit on their team which was looked at the time as their weakness. Now, Jamal Adams coming over, bringing all of his hoopla and his energy and all that sort of stuff, lots of sacks, big hits. They thought that he was going to come in, solidify that secondary, and be able to have an impact on the team. Now, his first year in Seattle, he did break the record for sacks from a safety with 9.5. Now, a lot of them were whatever. I'll tell you about the one Sam Darnold sack that he got. Sam just decided to run out of bounds behind the line of scrimmage like a Momo, and that was one of his sacks. But you can't take 9.5 sacks away from him. No other safety in NFL history has done that. But over the last 2 seasons, Jamal Adams, when quarterbacks target Jamal Adams, they have a 104+ passer rating. What does that mean? That means that he has been a liability in coverage. So while he's adding an impact up front with getting 9.5 sacks, on the back end, which is really, as a safety, should be at least an equal part of your game, he's been nothing short than of a liability. A 104 passer rating against. Now, this year, Jamal Adams has 0 sacks, so that part of his game was taken away. He did come up with his first 2 interceptions from a starting quarterback in his NFL career. This is his 5th year in the league. So the first 4 years in the league, he was unable to grab a pass from a starting quarterback. And that's not for lack of opportunities. He's had quite a few hit him in the hands, chest, or face. He just couldn't seem to come down with it. This year he has 2 interceptions, no sacks, but again, that 104 passer rating when he's in coverage is not good. There have been numerous plays where Jamal Adams was burned for big gains and or touchdowns. He's looked almost lost that time. So Pete Carroll was asked on the Moving the Chains show with Pat Kerwin and Jim Miller this week. Pat Kerwin asked him how the Jamal Adams trade has been from his perspective, and his word was terrific. The trade has been terrific. Now, do we think he's going to come out and say anything else? Come on, you can't do that. Anybody saying that it's been terrific is not being honest. Can we just say it that way? He's not being as honest as he can. He's trying to paint the picture, which is understandable. Now, let's add to this. Jamal Adams held out prior to this season, and he ended up getting a $17.5 million a year contract extension from the Seahawks, which makes him the most expensive, highest paid safety in the NFL. When you have the highest paid safety in the NFL, 2 interceptions, 0 sacks, and a 104 passer rating against is not exactly what you were looking for. 2 firsts and a third, $17.5 million a year for 4 years. 2 interceptions, no sacks. So it's not exactly what we're looking for when we make trades like that. So on the other end, Joe Douglas has looked like the winner in this trade. Now, when you compare the Jamal Adams trade to other big-time trades in the past, you have some like the Mike Ditka, Ricky Williams trade. Mike Ditka traded his entire draft class, including their first-round pick that year, plus a first and third the following year, to move up and grab one player, running back Ricky Williams. We know that didn't work out for the Saints because 2 years later, they traded him to the Miami Dolphins, and they got some of that back. I think they got a first and a third or something like that. They did get something back, but they were not able to get that capital. Nobody's ever going to give that capital again. You're never going to see it. So that's one I would argue is probably a more lopsided trade than the Jamal Adams trade. And then we have the all too famous Herschel Walker trade, where Jimmy Johnson really took advantage of an NFL that was not as keyed into the value of the draft as he was. He traded for a bunch of players from the Vikings who they thought were great players, and he's going to keep them. He had attached to those players, if they don't stay here, if I cut them before a certain time, then I'll get a first-round pick. And what he did essentially was get the players, cut them, and take the picks. That's what he did. So it was brilliant, and Herschel Walker did okay up in Minnesota, but they never used him to his strengths. How many times have we seen that? Great player in Dallas, good player in Minnesota. He never lived up to the value, and Jimmy Johnson subsequently built the dynasty that was the Dallas Cowboys. So again, I don't think that can be overtaken by the Jamal Adams trade either. So I think the Ditka and the Jimmy Johnson trades probably have the Jamal Adams trade by a significant margin, in my opinion. But that doesn't take away how good of a trade this was for the New York Jets. What do you guys think? Do you think this is a good one? Do you think it's not so good? Do you think it compares with some of those other big-time trades that we've seen in NFL history? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I hope you're having a great day, everybody, and go Jets.